Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, an update and a historical perspective on flooding conditions in the valley. Also tonight, we'll try to figure out why job creation has slowed, and we'll learn about an effort to inform Arizona teachers about Asperger's syndrome. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Cleanup efforts continue around the valley after yesterday's record rainfall. For an update of flooding conditions and to put those conditions in a historical perspective, we welcome Steve Waters, the Flood Warning Branch Manager for the Flood Control District of Maricopa County. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you, Ted.
I'm sure you're a busy man these days. Update
Very
now.
busy.
What are we seeing around the county now?
Oh, we're seeing water receding. Indian Bend Wash is almost dried out. The Salt River is storing a little bit of water. Most of the channels that were doing their jobs yesterday are emptying out and we're getting back to normal. Unfortunately, we do have some more storms coming in tonight, so we'll just have to see and play it by ear, but it won't be anything like yesterday.
Have you seen anything like it was yesterday?
We have seen storms like that. They don't always hit right in the urban area,
Yeah.
but in the past and in different areas of the county, we have had storms of that magnitude. When it hits right on everybody's house, then it's kind of a different deal.
And when the build out in Maricopa County continues, where there were no houses, there are now flooding.
Very much so. In a storm like this, we get rainfall amounts that overtax the drainage systems that are put in place, and then people say, well, you know, this huge storm and the detention basins are not working and the storm sewers are not working, but you know, those are designed to carry a certain load based on the money that's available for them, and in a storm like this, they're just going to be overtaxed.
As far as the areas that were hit the worst, what are you seeing out there in terms of flooding?
In terms of flooding, probably the Southeast Valley.
Yeah.
The Southeast Valley got the most rain. The areas around Chandler and Gilbert and East Mesa. There was flooding, of course, in the freeways. And again, there's some structures that were overtaxed, weren't able to do their jobs quite like they should. And so people suffered as a result.
Were any of the areas that flooded of note unusual? I mean, are these the places that usually get flooding when we have hard rain, or is this then and then some?
Well, when we get hard rains, we identify always new areas that are prone to flooding, because we can't plan and model every area of the valley. So when we have a storm that hits like on the north side of South Mountain or in the urban area as a whole, we identify new areas that are prone to flooding.
So basically you learn with each storm, don't you?
Oh, very much so. We have project managers and planners whose job it is to design facilities that are new and taking care of new water. And when we get a storm like this, they're out in the field. They're looking at their project areas and seeing where those problems are.
And so in general then, the retention basins did what they were supposed to do.
Let's talk about that for a second. There are detention basins that are with little developments. There are neighborhood-sized detention basins. There are regional detention basins. And they're all sized to different storms, again, depending on the amount of money that people want to spend on those. So detention basins that were designed for 2 or 10-year storms, yeah, they were overtaxed and probably spilled and did all kinds of stuff. The newest detention basin that we have out at Levine on the north side got to 90%, but did its job.
And Levine is an area that really gets hit all the time, isn't it?
It has this summer.
In
other summers, no.
Yeah, and that's something else that's unusual, isn't
Sure.
it? It just seems like the storms have been coming a lot from the west, it seems, and new spots breaking out all the time.
We've had a couple of very early season low pressure systems coming off the Pacific that have interacted with moisture coming from the south, and that's caused the events of August 19th and the one yesterday to just be way worse than they usually are, because most of the time we have the moisture that comes from the northeast, and as it comes downslope from the mountains, the air falls with it. But when it goes the other way,
right,
that air lifts up as it's moving, and
Yeah.
it drops that much more rain.
Well, and we talk, so it looks like things are getting back to normal here. We'll see what happens with storms tonight and maybe it's something a touch or so tomorrow, but things are getting back and we hope those folks in Mesa get back too, because they are really, and that was again regarding freeway kind of stuff, and just again a freak of geography.
A freak of there may have been a little bit of influence from the upcoming El Nino. Early in the season, we had one of the earliest ever Category 5
Yes.
storms in the East Pacific.
Yes.
And so we've had this Hurricane Norbert come up, just peel its moisture into the southwestern U.S. and having that interaction with that trough coming through.
Now, before you go, we got a couple of shots just to prove that these kind of storms do happen.
Sure.
We got a shot from 1905, the state capitol.
Right.
And this looks like it could be an old photograph from a day or two ago, as far as the state capitol just absolutely being inundated with rain.
Right.
Talk to us about
the
this.
state capitol is in the historic floodplain of Cave Creek. And Cave Creek now has a nice big dam up at Joe Max Road. But back then, Cave Creek flowed to the Salt River, and the state capitol was in the way. So when they had a big storm on Upper Cave Creek, the state capitol would get flooded. And actually, a flooding of the capitol in the 1950s is what caused the legislature to create flood control districts in Arizona.
Isn't that interesting? We have another shot, I think, of the Capitol underwater during a flood. I think this was the same flood in 1905. Look at that. I mean, that's we know where that is.
Right, horse-drawn buggies,
Yeah.
but still don't cross flooded roadways even with your horse.
Yes, and in 1930, in the 30s, I guess, we got a shot of folks in Gilbert, Arizona, doing what's come natural, I guess.
So this was a storm in the 30s. There was also a big storm in the Southeast Valley in 1954 that the Corps of Engineers used to design the big dams that we see now.
And for this storm, and I think we have something coming up here, 9th Street and Northern, there was a canal break. And look, this is 9th Street and Northern.
Right.
Now these
An
storms,
orchard.
yeah, and that produced all this rain. They still weren't as much as what we had yesterday, were they?
No, in some places, no. For instance, the storm of June 1972, there were recorded amounts of 5 inches, but not quite in as large of an area as we saw yesterday.
All right, so those are some of the historical photographs there to put it all into perspective. When we have storms, is there a temptation to go too far to protect these kinds of things from these? You know what I mean? I mean, you build for the 100-year or 1,000-year, whatever you build for. But even you were saying these basins, they weren't made for a storm like this. So how do you look into the future with something like this?
Well, you keep doing what we've been doing. As the flood control district for Maricopa County, we look at a regional approach, and we've been building structures over the years, dams and channels that protect large areas of land. The developers, they can do what they can do, and every city in the county has a little bit different drainage standard
Right.
of how they want things built. But you're right, there can be a tendency to over-design. And in my opinion, the big core dams on the north side of town were over-designed. I mean, they're huge, and
Yeah.
they'll just carry, hold tons and tons and tons of water.
Well, good, because some of them got tons and tons and tons of water.
Yes.
Hey, it's good to have you here. Good information. Thanks for joining
My
us.
pleasure.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
The nation's unemployment rate fell in August, but the job growth rate was down too, which suggests that the unemployment rate dropped due to fewer people looking for work. Here to help us make sense of all this is economist Jim Rounds of Elliott D. Pollock and Company. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Okay, so August jobless rate down. Good, right?
Well, we're seeing this trend of the unemployment rate going down, but it's due to a number of things. And even what you mentioned, there's some people leaving the workforce, they're not looking for work anymore. You also have additional people that are moving up in terms of having a lower paid job after the downturn. They're getting into a more normal job. So the unemployment number doesn't tell you a whole lot. The one that I like to look at the US level is how many jobs have been created. Normally we'd like to see above 200,000 on a month over month basis. 300,000 would be a normal recovery. 142 was a little low, but it could be an anomaly. We might be back up to 200,000 within the next couple of months.
Well, you mentioned an anomaly, fewest jobs for months, I guess in 8 months or so. It's been over 200,000 for quite a string now.
Yeah, for 6 months straight. So this surprised us a little bit, but sometimes this data gets revised. And I always like to tell people, don't rely too much on just one data point. I still think we're moving more towards 200 to 250,000 on a month-over-month basis, and then maybe 300,000 by next year.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so those months when it was over 200,000, can you see anything happening then that may not have happened in August?
Well, it's really difficult to tell. Data gets revised. You go through some seasonal effects. That often happens with Arizona data, where you hear about a report, but it has to do with going into the summer months and the education effects. They try to make an adjustment for that, these seasonal effects, but it's not always perfect. So if you look historically, though, even in boom times, we've still seen this series kind of jagged. So it'll go up 1 month, not as good. But if you look at the longer term trend, we're still improving. It's just not at the rate that we were hoping.
Is it at a better rate than we thought maybe a year ago, considering those 8 straight months of over 200,000?
Yeah, well, a year ago there were people talking about whether or not we might have another downturn. Everybody got spooked when we went through that first quarter of the GDP decline, which could be explained to some extent. So we're entering a period where you can understand the economic data. When we went into the downturn, what we end up seeing is half the data will make sense, the other half you can't quite figure out, and you know that something's up. All the data, it's still relatively weak, but it's improving, but it's all consistent because it's all interrelated. So we feel comfortable with the long-term forecast that we're getting better, but we'd like to see it improve a little bit more than it has been.
Well, and that's an interesting point. When the recession hit, it's just like we're talking about with flooding. When the flooding hits, you kind of learn something new every time. When the recession hit, did we learn something new about these numbers, about the economy?
Yes, especially Arizona. We learned that we aren't always in a situation where we outperform the U.S. Every prior economic downturn and expansion, we've done better than the U.S. So everybody says that we're more cyclical than the U.S. This has been the first time since around the 1940s that we actually were more cyclical than the U.S. Typically we do better. It's because population flow stopped. If it's a downturn that really impacts people's ability to move, all bets are off, and that's why we've had economic development reform, tax policy reform. We're talking about some of those things that actually make the economy tick, like transportation infrastructure, education, things like that.
So, and again, Labor Department is saying that layoffs really aren't a problem. Manufacturing, construction, auto sales, those things still seem to be okay. From what I can see, recent data suggests it's still relatively healthy out there.
Yeah, we're seeing, so when you go into the recovery, you tend to see lower paying jobs come first. Then after a while you see the higher paying jobs come. But there were some reports that were saying that the higher paying jobs across the US were outpacing the lower paying jobs. That's not how the economy works. So I think there were some flaws in those studies. But at least there was some discussion that some of the higher paying jobs across the US were coming back. We're not seeing that as much in Arizona yet. We still need to see some people move here. We need some additional improvement in construction employment, even some of the lower paying ones first, but it'll come. Instead of full recovery in 2015 like we were forecasting a couple or 3 years ago, it's looking like 2016 now.
Okay, full recovery 2016 perhaps, but at least you're angling in the right direction as opposed to a year ago when it looked like you were going in the wrong direction.
That's right. We try to remind people that we're 5 years into this economic recovery also. And so when you're doing forecasting, there's nothing indicating that we're building up the excesses and all this data is going to fall off a cliff, but the recovery is getting long in the tooth. We're probably not going to see a downturn right around the corner, but when we talk to public policy people, we say be prepared for the fact that things might not be normal in terms of the Arizona recovery. We might not have that economic boom that we're used to, but still expect next year to be better than last year and the year after that to be better than next year. But be very careful if you go beyond 2 or 3 years.
And again, be very careful if you're counting on customers buying things, because with wages stagnant, and you say the lower payer jobs, they seem to be the ones that come back first. If that's the case, folks aren't going to be buying as much as they usually are.
Yeah, spot on. The consumers aren't buying as much and businesses aren't investing as much. Now, if you look at the economic numbers like we do, it looks like things are just barely improving, relatively flat. But what's really hard to predict is when things suddenly turn up, because you can't just draw a line between two data points and get a ruler out and do your forecast. We put a little bit of thought into it, sometimes not much more thought, but some thought into it. And it's hard to hit those inflection points when things start to ramp up. I just don't think it's going to be ramping up as solidly as we saw last time.
Last question, and this is theoretical here, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. As an economist, would you rather see the ramp like this, or do you want to see it go like this tomorrow?
We don't want to see a bubble. We don't want to see a bubble in housing. We don't want to see a bubble in the stock market. If things are only naturally going to moderately improve, I'd rather they just improve in that way rather than create another bubble, because what happens if there's a bubble? People are going to stop spending, businesses are going to stop investing, and it's really going to impact the Arizona economy.
Moderation in all things when it comes to the economy, huh?
That's right.
All right, Jim, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Giving and Leading looks at an effort to educate teachers about Asperger's syndrome. That effort includes delivering 45,000 paper fortune tellers with information about Asperger's to Arizona teachers. Patty Dion is co-founder of Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center's Think Asperger's campaign, and Dr. Ron Melmed is the center's co-founder and medical director. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about this campaign now, September 15th. What is that?
Well, I don't know if you remember this as a child, but I sure do. And we called them either chatterboxes or fortune tellers.
Sure.
And they gave us information, primarily about who was going to kiss us. But in this campaign, we are looking at some of the signs of Asperger's. And on each fold of paper, we have some of the red flags, for example, playing alone. And as you then open the chatterbox or fortune teller, you get a little more defined idea of what that means. And more importantly, you are asked to go to the thinkaspergers.org website and sign up for a free webinar on Asperger's.
And it is important for teachers to understand Asperger's because those kids are out there, aren't they?
They sure are. And I think more and more people are becoming aware of it and becoming aware of the fact that when you know someone with autism or with Asperger disorder, we say you know one person with autism or Asperger disorder. The big difference between most individuals with autism spectrum disorder and Asperger disorder is that individuals with Asperger disorder, which falls under the umbrella of ASD or autism spectrum disorder, have near normal language and normal cognitive development. So they might not be identified early as, for example, a child who's nonverbal. And it might only be when they enter into the school system that they start to exhibit the signs of social communication deficits, which is the core deficit that these individuals have.
Indeed, and is it similar to autism in that there's like fixation, repetitive behavior, this sort of thing, or is it a little bit different?
They can certainly have fixated behavior, but as Ron has mentioned, because these children don't have cognitive impairment or language delays, it is very difficult to note their struggle. And it really isn't until you put them in a social situation, which our schools offer that, that we can pick up on some of the defining struggles of these kids.
Is that true? So basically, kind of a lonely, I would imagine, child in general, put them in a crowd, put them in a classroom, maybe the warning flags start to show?
That's exactly right. So the primary deficit is the social communication challenges, difficulty with reading social cues, difficulty understanding nuance of what other children might be wanting to say, and sometimes having unusual language as well. In addition, the restricted and the repetitive behaviors are often seen as well. Put them in a situation where they have to learn in a group context. Children are divided up and say, you work in this team and you work in that team. And for the first time, they might have real difficulty in adopting, for example, another kid's perspective, in saying, yes, that's correct, we can learn from that, we can include that. Often these children might be more restricted in terms of their social awareness and might want their way or not at all. And in that way, they can become isolatory.
Well, with that in mind, what do teachers need to know? What are they being told on these fortune tellers when they see a child and they're thinking, you know, I think that child might have something similar, might be under this particular umbrella. What do they need to know?
Well, one of the particular thing is this social isolationism. And we have a tape at SARC where we actually went to some of the schools and looked for what does Asperger's look like. And sometimes it looks like one child walking along the perimeter of a play yard all alone. That's what it could look like. And it is that social piece, that missing social piece, that really determines the struggle of the child. These kids really have such a difficult time, want to make a friend, and very earnestly are trying to, but don't have the social language and the social expertise that the rest of us seem to just glean naturally.
So what does a teacher, okay, please.
I think that let's take a step back
Okay.
from that. The first job of the teacher, we think the first job of schools is to screen all children who are attending their schools using a generic screening program for Asperger disorder. And that's exactly what the Think Asperger's program is, and to provide that screening opportunity to every single child. We think that school teachers should be utilizing our program, which has been standardized, and evaluate through a screening process as to determine which children might be at risk for Asperger disorder. That's the primary role we feel for teachers.
But again, I'm trying to put myself in the position of a teacher. I've got the paper, the thing here, the fortune teller. I think I've recognized it. I think I've made a discovery. I'm pretty positive on this. What do I do?
Well, there are a couple of things to do. First of all, on the fortune, on our chatterbox, which we call, there's our website. You can contact the website. You can contact SARC directly as well. You can the teacher can speak to their school psychologist and say, you know, we have concerns about this particular child. We don't think that they're really socially interacting with other children. They're not communicating effectively. They have some unusual behaviors. Can you come and take a look? Now, SARC as an overall program, we can actually perform that function for the school, but typically the teacher would then go to the school psychologist.
And again, for a teacher, so I want to get group activity. I want to get these kids all around the same table. I want them interacting and communicating, but the one kid or these couple of kids here, they may have Asperger's. How do you keep them from being isolated when it seems like they want to be, or they end up being isolated?
Well, I think then at that point, when you do notice the difficulty, you would then refer to SARC, call SARC, and possibly speak to the parents, of course, and look to a professional evaluation of your child. And through that, SARC has the program, Think Asperger's, and through that program, we offer intervention therapies for these children.
And
It might be pretty easy. It might be as simple as saying, going up to Johnny, one of the leaders of the class, and say, you know, Jamie over here does not do that well on the playground. I would like you to be her partner on the playground, to make sure that she's introduced to all the other kids, that you stand by her. That kind of peer counseling, that peer tutoring is enormously effective. That way the child gets integrated with the other children more effectively. They feel part of the act and part of the show and hope to learn from that experience.
Very good.
But there might be some more formal interventions to do as well.
Well, very good. Well, good luck with the campaign. It sounds like a good one, and I
you.
hope it works, and I hope teachers are paying attention and can act accordingly. Good to have
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Wednesday on Arizona Horizon, the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture is fighting for its accreditation, and a conversation with Valley resident and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Nils Lofgren. Those stories and more, 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust. Committed to changing lives and strengthening community through investments in nonprofits and strategic initiatives. More information at pipertrust.org.